if you have to do something, do it 100%, glean the knowledge that you can, and just put that in your toolbox. And maybe someday you'll have a loose screw that only that tool can fix. And if not, hey, at least you know.
With the world endlessly improving and getting more complicated, we often find ourselves stressed out and unable to do everything we would like to. During today's episode, we interviewed Darryk Kelly, the man who somehow manages to do everything, everywhere, all at once. Welcome back to the Voices of York. I'm Callan.
And I'm Logan.
And we're here to find the most interesting and captivating people in this beachside town of ours and learn their story. We've got Darryk right here with us. Say hi, Darryk.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Darryk, you are everywhere. You are on the school board. You are former scout, former robotics. You just seem to be everywhere.
What kind of compelled you to go and just do everything, I guess?
I just have always been interested in a lot of things. I think back to when I was in high school, especially towards the latter half, you run into what am I going to do when we're done here? I'm sure you guys are both going through that at the moment. And some of my peers, their question was, I have no clue what I want to do. My question was, I had no clue what I didn't want to do, right? So you can't do everything. You have to make some choices in life. So in high school, I always wanted to be in every club. And I was in quite a few of them, as you listed a number of them. But you can't do all of them, right? But I can't tell you what compelled me. I don't like doing nothing. I always want to be up to something. So I have a lot of things to fill my plate.
How was your experience with robotics?
Oh, goodness. It was wonderful. We were just obsessed, honestly. So I started in robotics in 7th grade. And at that point in time, York didn't have a middle school team. It was just a 9th grade through 12th. So we were a private team, just a two-man show, myself and my friend Josiah. So we had quite the run that year. And we didn't end up winning at states, though we were pretty close. We did get runner-up, but we had won the skills competition, ended up going to Worlds. At that point, I was just obsessed. Like I said, to have gone that far. And you, Logan, probably wouldn't recognize the robotics that we had back then because it has grown so much in the state of Maine. And then as Josiah moved into freshman year, he joined the high school team. And so I took a year off. When I joined the high school team, I was like, all right, guns blazing, hit the ground running, Josiah and I. And the amount of hours that we spent as we really honed in on some skills that we didn't have innately. We spent, obviously, the 4 hours that were naturally built into the week, but we would beg all the mentors, any teacher we could get to let us into the robotics. And we're like, we don't really need anything from you. We just need to be supervised, or else, someone's not going to be happy. We can't just walk in there by ourselves. It was an obsession. Like, there's no other way to really explain how that went down other than, we learned an incredible amount. We were competitive and we had fun and we tortured ourselves a little bit, but there's so many skills to be learned in robotics besides just the basics of building and programming, although we learned a lot about that as well.
What was your experience transitioning from high school? You're in scouts, you're in robotics, doing all of these clubs, transitioning to becoming a realtor?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a little bit rough, right? Like, you go very quickly, especially working in the real estate world, where, like, technically I'm self-employed, right? Like, I work with a brokerage, and so my license has to be held under theirs, but they don't set my hours, right? So I don't have to clock in from 9 to 5 or anything like that. That's why I'm here right now, right? We're in the middle of a work day for most people. But I'm able to step away and set this as an appointment in my day. So who do you ask? Who's doing what you wish you were doing? Like, you go and find a mentor. You say, what do you do? Like, what's your schedule? Or how do you make sure that things work out for you? But that shift is stark, and it happens quickly if you go, in that direction that I did. And I think that's a good thing, but it can be tough. Yeah.
Seems kind of like once you started, you just dove right in head first and just kept on going. Is that just something you do naturally? Is that something you learned?
Yeah, I'm always just looking for an opportunity to, go and make something happen, right? So wherever I find that there's an opening, a place open for somebody to take action, whether or not I'm qualified, I'll usually jump in. And like to say I don't always know what I'm doing, but I'm usually humble enough to tell you that I don't. That's kind of my mindset, because people are always willing to teach you. I think that's a lesson that is important to take away, is if you're willing to ask a question, most people are willing to answer it. So whether it's in robotics, where I said, Josiah's ready to dive into competition. He's a competitive spirit like myself, and he needs a partner in programming. Or, looking at the school board, for example, I ran unopposed to elected a position, and I ran unopposed. So I just kind of saw that opening. And, the first thing I said when I got there, I was sitting down next to everyone, is, I don't know what I'm doing, by the way. They all said, well, none of us knew what we were doing when we started either. I said, okay, well, I'm also, half the age of anyone else here at the table. So let's be very clear. I don't know what I'm doing, but just let me know, like, what's going on and what I need to do and what I need to know. They've got a little handbook that they give you when you start. I said, well, you could start by reading this. I said, well, that looks extremely boring. I did. Yeah, I parsed through it over the course of a couple of weeks. You just start to get that background. But there's openings all over the place for people, whether it's the school system or clubs that you enjoy being a part of, or daily necessities, right? Your utilities, your roads, those things. They're all held up by people who work really hard to do that. And they're constantly looking over their shoulder going, who's coming up behind me to take this over when I'm done? And those are the people that you go and talk to. So whatever it is you guys are passionate about, right? Those are the people you go and talk to and say, hey, I want to be your successor. Like, what do I need to know? Thank goodness, because I feel like I can't leave. Like, I hear that all the time.
Did you have a person like that you went to? Or is that just something you kind of figured out after the fact?
Yes to both. It depends. So like every domain of life is a little bit different. So like real estate, most keenly, my mentor is Brandon Elsmore. He's been, in the business much longer than I have. But at first I didn't have a mentor, and, I was spinning my wheels, but with no traction. I wasn't going anywhere. And, I turned to people and started asking questions. I was talking to multiple people, and they all had their different values and their different goals and what drives them. And the question that I would ask a lot is, I was referred to you because you do a lot of business, and that's great. But that also means you work hard. Why do you get up in the morning and work as hard as you do? And I got a whole variety of answers, right? But Brandon's answer was, I have 2 kids. When we had our first kid, my wife gave up working a job she loved. She could take care of our family. My obligation is to the 3 of them to make sure that I'm working as hard as I can so that we as a family have the best life that we can. He said, I can't beat that answer. No one I've talked to has beat that answer. He does a lot of business, but his values aligned with me. And so that's what I said. You're not just a person I want to ask some questions to over coffee. You're a person I want to align myself with for a long period of time. And so, that's definitely the most poignant example of a mentor I've gone to, because that's a reoccurring figure.
What are some of your current interests?
Current interests? That's tough. What are my current interests? I've been getting really into, so like at the beginning of the summer, we have, so a little bit of context here. There's an insurance company in Portsmouth that will put on what they call sweat working events as a, tie into the idea of networking events. And it's, I think, way more fun. So we've gone on hikes, pickleball tournaments. And this one in particular was, we went to the new rock climbing gym in Portsmouth, Salt Pump. And, they brought us out. It was, free to us, and, spent a couple of hours there. Okay, so we're going to do this a lot more now. So I've been getting into rock climbing. I'm very much a novice, but I have a lot of fun doing it. And through that, I've made a lot of friends at the rock climbing gym. You just get a bunch of familiar and friendly faces, people that come by and, enjoy doing similar things. So with that group, we've started to venture outside of just climbing on rock walls inside of a building. And, we'll go out rock climbing, on actual rocks out in like Pawtuckaway State Park, which is in, southern New Hampshire, or Stonehouse Pond, which is, I think, just west of Durham, which is pretty cool. Or we'll go on hikes, or we've been kayaking a lot. So, interests right now have just been like, okay, let's explore a little bit more about the world. Just like have a good time along with all of the other things, where you get to make a change and take action and all of that stuff I talked about before. Sometimes you put that aside, you just have a good time.
Our last question for you today is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
Oh, great question. Anything else? Someone was asking me advice one time, and that's a dangerous thing to do because I don't know everything. And essentially, this is a classmate of yours, and they're saying, we're so close to being done with high school, and I really don't feel like I'm getting anything else out of it. I'm probably not going to go to college. I want to go into the trades. And so I'm really just winding down the clock, waiting to get that diploma so I can get into a trade school and just get out of here. Like, why should I care when I have to go in every day at 7:50 and I have to go in until 2:05 and I just have to sit there and just get good enough grades to graduate? If I get a D, that's fine. Doesn't make a difference to me. Like, why should I care? And that doesn't quite sit right with me. I had to think about it. I was like, I haven't experienced that thought process, so I need a second to kind of think about that. But my initial reaction, my gut feeling right away was there's something incorrect about that thought process. And I think the takeaway that I gave to him that I think I try and keep with me in all the things that I do is, if you're going to do something, whether you have to do it or you're getting to do it or whatever it is, if you're going to do something, do it 100% because it's going to help you somewhere, And so, maybe if you had the option with no consequences to just like say school's wrapped up now, I'm going to go to a trade school, maybe we could balance that decision and see what was going to be better for your future. But as it sits right now, you need that diploma and you're going to be sitting in those classes for the next 6 months. Why don't we focus on how much can you extract out of that opportunity that you're going to be a part of, and the knowledge you gain in those classes. Like, sometimes the process is its own reward, and the knowledge you gain, you don't know when it's going to come back up. But there's never been a time when I said, if I just didn't know this concept, I'd be so much better off. And so, my message to this student, my message to you guys is, if you have to do something, do it 100%, glean the knowledge that you can, and just put that in your toolbox. And maybe someday you'll have a loose screw that only that tool can fix. And if not, hey, at least you know.
Put that on a little inspirational poster right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, with a cat like hanging from a tree.
Yeah.
This has been Voices of York, broadcasting to you from York, Maine. Join us next week for our next interview, and make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on Voices of York next time. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.